Poker Hero here with another PokerCruncher tutorial. If you guys like these videos, definitely hit the like button, and I'm looking for suggestions of scenarios that you guys would like to see here. So as you saw in the first video, we started with like a tight 3-bet player. In the second video, we started with like a crazy loose player. This one's going to be a relatively simple pre-flop scenario with like it's a kind of crazy player. So we're going to get more and more complex. For the specific scenarios you want to see, drop them in the comments, and I'll try to find a hand in my database that represents the idea, and we'll go through it. So on to the hand. So today we are playing 5NL. It's a hand I played a while ago against a villain I know pretty well now because I play with him in 10NL quite a bit. Crazy player. So let's get to the hand. So we are on the button with pocket tens. Great hand. A fold, a limp. Against a limp, it doesn't really matter who the player is. Unless I think there's a high probability I'm getting re-raised, I'm going to make it 4 big blinds here every time, which I do. The main villain here, that is going to be the small blind, 3 bets to 40 cents, min 3 bet, and the big blind calls, original raiser folds. So we had to start thinking from a strategy perspective, what is the correct play here? We're not going to get the PokerCruncher yet. Let's figure out what our right play is. Well, I know this villain here. I can look at the stats. I know they're crazy. I know they're aggressive and not necessarily doing it in a smart way. So their VPIP is 41. Their preflop raise is 29. Their 3-bet is 16%. Their 3-bet against steal position players is 26%. Those are huge numbers. My 3-bet is 8%, which is probably on target. 16% is high. Now, granted, on this villain, we only have 300 hands. I'm using some of my subsequent experience with them to let you know they're crazy. But I know from a player like this that they are 3-betting hands that are way wider than they need to. Also, look at the player here in the big blind. It's a 78-2 player. That is not a good player. He's continuing with too many hands. You shouldn't cold call 3-bets. Particularly out of position in a pre-flop raiser. This guy's got to be doing it with way too many hands and way too wide of a range, and we want to attack that. Normally, if this is a scenario against good players, I would probably just call and see a flop. Because these guys are so wide and so out of line, I think this is a good spot for us to 4-bet. You 4-bet just to punish the small blind here from raising too wide a range out of position. Let's see here. If we actually click into it by position, 3-bet by position, he's 3-betting for the small blind, 24%. That is high. Granted, it's not that many opportunities, but you got to go with the information you have. This guy here, I mean, this guy's playing all kinds of hands from all kinds of positions. It's hardly worth looking at his stats. I think a 4-bet here is in order. Normally, when I 4-bet, I try to go in position maybe 2.5 or 3 times the initial raiser. So that might be like $1.50, and I would add something in, I'm sorry, about 2.5, 3 times would be about $1.20. Plus I would add something in the 40 cents for the additional collar. So probably I want to go about $1.60 here, $1.50, $1.60. I do think it's a good 4-bet squeeze spot. I like this play quite a bit. There'll be overcards on the flop. You're not going to like it if a jack, queen, king, ace comes. So let's see if we can take it down now. All right, we do squeeze. I think the $2 is probably unnecessary. Probably something like $1.60 gets the same result and just risks less. If you look over here, and again, there's only so many opportunities, but you know he's been 4-bet 3 times and has folded all of them. So it's not like he's continuing. I'm sorry, he's not folded any of them. So it looks like he's continuing at a high frequency. So maybe I made it a little larger to have a smidge more fold equity. I don't know. So what happens? He jams. He effectively jams. He leaves 52 cents behind. I'm going to get started this for our analysis here as an all-in. I realize there's 52 cents. That changes the math here a little bit. If the pot gets up to $10 or so, though, it's not affecting it. 50 cents isn't affecting the odds that much. Big blind folds. So this is the question for today: is should we call with pocket tens? Should we call here with pocket tens? So first things first is let's try to figure out a range here for this guy. So now I'm going to use my PokerCruncher. So it's easy to say when a guy's 5-betting, you know, what we'll call all in. It's easy to say like players at this level only do that with aces and kings. So when you're playing 2NL, you see a guy with a 1 or 2% 3-bet rate. Guys are only doing that with aces, kings, queens, ace, king, something like that. When you start seeing, a 16% 3-bet, he's playing too wide. You're seeing a 38% 4-bet, he's playing more than your typical 3 and 4-bet ranges. So it's easy to deduce from that his 5-bet range is probably going to be a little bit crazy as well. So we're going to make some assumptions based on what we have. So come over here. We're going to make ourselves player 1. We're going to put in 10, 10. All right. What is his range? Well, it's easy to start with a 4-bet range of 38%. I mean, he's not 4-betting actually that. So one thing you can do is right here at PokerTrack, if you hit your little notes, all the hands that have gone to showdown, they take notes on. So you see this guy's 3-bet range here, for example, that was crazy. He's 3-betting Jack 10 off, 10 9 off, King Jack off plus. Wow, some of the 6-2 suited, 4-3 suited hands that you do not want to 3-bet. So his 4-bet plus range is all the way down to pocket 8s and King 10 off. So when you're doing range analysis on players, it always helps to know the bottom of their range, meaning, a player's going to have aces in their 3-bet range. They're going to have ace in every range. It's helpful to know that he's doing that with hands as weak as King 10 off and as weak as pocket 8s. So now that's his 4-bet range. That doesn't mean that it's 5-bet range, but let's start there and see where that leaves us. So if I come down here, I know he's doing 4-betting with hands as weak as 8-8, as weak as King 10 off. So if he's doing it as weak as King 10 off, he's doing it with the stronger offsuit kings. That's just too many combos of offsuit hands. He's definitely doing it with the ace 10 plus. I'm going to assume over here he's going to do it with every suited Broadway. Whoop. So it's something like that. So his 4-bet range, and that's only 11% of hands. And granted, when it's 38%, it's 38% of opportunities, not percentage of hands. But he may, if he's doing it with King 10 off, he probably does it with Queen Jack off. Any time you're in a 3-bet, a 4-bet pot, you want to make sure that you have hands on this side of the line, meaning you have the suited varieties, not these. These are hands that they're reasonable bluffs because they have some good blockers and stuff to them, but you don't want to be playing those in big money situations. So I'm assuming his 4-bet range looks something like this. Let's see, did we get that correct? Pocket 8s, King 10 off. Might even be a little wider just because he's crazy. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the bottom, say 30% of this range. So right now I have 153 combos. I'm going to take off about 30 to 40 combos of this just to get down to trim his range a little bit. When you do this analysis, you kind of want to do a worst case scenario, and this is probably a reasonably accurate worst case scenario. But you don't want to trim it down to just... You don't want to give him half the board and say, well, I have a ton of equity. You want to give him a realistic range and maybe a little tighter or more valuable range just to make sure you have that equity gap. So let's do this. So let's take off. That gets you about where you want to be right there. Take that off. All right. So we've trimmed off about 33, about a third of the combos. So notice, and this is just a quick lesson, look like an ace-queen off versus ace-queen suited. So when you have hands on this side of the board, there's 12 combos of all the offsuit unpaired hands. There's 4 combos of all the suited non-paired hands. So realize when you unclick these boxes here, you're taking off 12 with each click. If you unclick them over here, it's only 4. So for every king, queen offsuit you can play, that's 3 of the boxes over here. So just realize how playing too many offsuit hands means you're playing too many hands in general. So you really want to make sure you're playing over here on this side of the board. So that's our analysis. So now we have this simple equity calculation. So he's laying us 3.28 to 1. We need 23% equity to continue. Let's take a guess. Everybody take a guess here. What do you think pocket 10s has against this range? So, and I'll reiterate a point is when you're playing against a player like this, though, you are playing against his range, not a specific hand. Every hand here, he has 111. We're saying he has 111 different possible hands he can have here. Roughly 6% of them are pocket aces, 6% are pocket kings. 6% of them are ace 10 off and have very little value. I'm going to guess in this situation we're a reasonable favorite. Not a big one, but probably 54%. So remember, as long as we have 23% equity, it should be a call. I think you have more than double the number that you need. So I'm guessing 54%. All right. So 52%. So this is a fairly easy scenario. Again, I want to start with simple samples, though. But you have 52% equity here against his range. You need 23% equity to call. This is an easy call. So you'll notice just the way the stack's set up. The guy's not even min raising you. There's just too much money, particularly for the big blind caller. There's just too much money here to not call. If you ever have, so you want, I'll teach a concept real quick. There's an equity gap. So you want to make sure you have a little bit more equity in the hand than the odds are laying you. So right here, you need 23% equity to call. You probably don't want to call if it's exactly 23% because there's rake and you just don't want that variance. But as you start getting, maybe a 3% gap and you have 26% equity or something, though, you're like, all right, I can call that. If you ever have 5%, it's a good call. If you start having 10, or in this case, 30% equity, guys, you just got to shovel your money in. If you're in a scenario where you can win 60% of the time in some cases, dude, you got to do it. That's the best math you're going to get. So we do call. Oh, okay. I actually jammed him to get his other 52 cents in there. Again, based on the math, I don't think that challenges too much. The way that I'll show you how the hand plays out, just to see if we ranged him correctly. The more important part here is just, did we do the math correctly? And I think based on the player and his perceived range, that we did. So the result is less important than making the correct decision. If you make correct decisions, the results will come. Let's see if we ranged him correctly, though. Flop. Let's peek for a second. What jacks does he have here? He has ace jack, king jack, queen jack, some pocket jacks. Obviously, with a jack on the board, it cuts down some of those combos. King, he does have some kings. He has some ace king. He has all the ace king. He has pocket kings. He has king queen, king jack, king 10, etc. And queen. So this is not a terribly good run out for pocket tens. There's 3 overcards. I don't know what he has here, but I'm guessing out of those 3 overcards, he probably hit one of them. There's not an ace, but if you look at the only hands with an ace he has, he has ace 10. Ace 10 missed. This unfortunately hits pretty much every other part of his range. Let's plug it in real quick. 5, jack, 7, king, queen. I know the suits aren't exactly right, but in this case, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so if you look at it, unfortunately, with 3 overcards to your 10, it's something that nails his range here. So you can only expect to win something like 15% of the time. Certainly an unfortunate run out, but you can see you had 52% equity and you were getting better pot odds than that, and it's an unfortunate run out, and he probably wins here. There's 85% of the time he would win here. And he chose a king-queen suited, which is right smack dab in the range we gave him. So it's a good exercise, and this is how you also do hand reading exercises on people. You try to figure out their range and figure out based on their actions what hands are most likely to continue in this way. Great example, a great way to continue improving your game. So, guys, leave some comments down below on scenarios that you want to see, and we'll work through them together. As a poker hero, we're out. Wishing you good luck in your games.